So that's why there's a flood watch in effect. So just be cautious traveling around tonight that there could be some street flooding. In addition to that, there could be some severe storms developing south of the city, low temp 61, and then more storms popping Saturday afternoon. I'm meteorologist Adam Joseph with your 6ABC forecast.
This report is sponsored by Macy's Backstage. What will you find at Macy's Backstage? How about essential warm weather styles, just $30 and under, like dresses, shoes and bags, men's, and even kids' looks. Find the latest trends, new arrivals, and great prices at a Macy's Backstage store near you.
Rocket.com is the new home for all things home ownership. Whether you're buying your first home, finding your next one, or unlocking home equity to fund one of your dreams, there's only one destination that has everything you need to get started, all under one roof. Get started today at Rocket.com. Rocket, own the dream.
Number one on your car radio preset and the new and improved iHeartRadio app. WDAS and WD273D Philadelphia is Fox Sports Radio, The Gambler.
There will be a Game 6 in Indiana and a statement victory tonight on their home court. They beat the Pacers in the Eastern Conference Finals at Madison Square Garden for the first time of the series with a 17-point victory. Final score, 111-94.
How about that, sports fans, as I puke all over the microphone? The New York Knicks extend the series, which is a good thing for us sports fans, man. We only have, 2 more weeks left in the NBA season, which takes forever, which kind of hits you both ways, right? You're happy that we got to this point and it's time to reset, especially for teams that have been terrible all season long, non-existent since November, essentially, Sixers. And then you're going to be sad for a little bit, but we do have plenty to discuss in the offseason, especially with the Sixers, NBA draft, and more. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's always fun when you get a great piece of news to discuss and break down that is somewhat significant. Let me check that. That is significant on a Friday. And even better, when we got Mark Henry Jr. riding with me for the first hour here on the Daily Ticket, of course, host of the Tough Cover Radio Show. Full disclosure, he's getting tomorrow off. He's doing me a solid. The boys will be down all over the globe. So we had to figure out who's going to be holding it down back at the ranch. And unfortunately, I'm tied up coaching and so on and so forth. So Mark was like, good man. He goes, dude, you need me to take off? I'll take the Saturday off, bro. Bang. So he's here with us on a Friday. Good afternoon, Mark. How we doing today, sir?
Doing well. Howie did it again.
Howie season, my friend. Yes. Look, we will get into, obviously, the Phillies. Big series against the Brew Crew. We got Luke Arcaini joining us in about 8 minutes live from Citizens Bank Park. That's up front. We will talk all things Phillies in just a minute here. We got NBA, of course, what took place last night. We finally got our Stanley Cup final situated as well. We got a lot to get into. But according to Adam Schefter, at about 2 o'clock, news came down on the timeline that Bryce Huff, who was a big-time free agent signing by the Philadelphia Eagles that did not work out. I don't think he suited up in the Super Bowl, Mark, right?
Yep.
He didn't suit up in the Super Bowl. Why would he? He didn't play. Yeah. So with that being said, it's not that much of a shock. Anyways, what is shocking is why general managers across the league continue to pick up the phone when Howie Roseman's on the other side. Let's start it there. Because if Howie's calling, I'm not answering. Yesterday, Colin Cowherd said that potentially Howie Roseman, I don't have to tell you, Mark, Howie Roseman could be the best general manager of all time in NFL history. Like Colin Cowherd said that yesterday. I know we don't like to really take his word as gospel, but that was something that hit me anyways. Bryce up, could be on to a new team for a second straight year. According to the NFL Network, Philadelphia Eagles are working toward trading the pass rusher to the San Francisco 49ers. Pre-June 1 trade would mean $12.1 million in dead money for the Eagles in 2025, with a $4.7 million loss of cap savings, while a post-June 1 move would incur only $3 million in dead money, blah, 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 blah. Here's the big deal. Bryce Huff was a bad signing. It was a three-year signing, $51 million deal, and he did not pay off. The reason why the 49ers have interest is because Robert Saleh is there now as a defensive coordinator, so maybe they can get the juices going again when he was with the Jets. Bryce Huff had a great season with the Jets, so I understand it from that perspective. But in the long run, Mark, it seems like the Eagles came out way on top with this move here.
Yeah, it seems like Howie worked with the cap to make this a feasible thing to do, because it seemed to the cap novices like me and to a lot of people out there that they were going to have to kind of just eat the money and either cut him or, do what you had this year where you had him on the roster, but you don't really play him. And I didn't really even think that there would be interest in trading for him. That changes once it becomes a little bit more economically feasible. They transferred money to signing bonuses, and a lot of that is the benefit that Howie, we give Howie all the credit for moving money around. A lot of that is Jeffrey Lurie willing to pay the bill and help these things get done, pay things in a way that keeps them off the cap. And that's what happened here. I think this is basically going to end up being almost a 1-year tryout for San Fran. So we have something that we're going to talking about teams that I think I call them iceberg teams that are, maybe aboard the Titanic that could be going down quite soon. And I think San Fran is on that list. They're looking for help. And, I do this activity. I think I talked about it with you last time I was on with Shane Huff, where we do this 3-part expansion series. We go through every team. We protect 11 players on those teams. And then we do an expansion draft for a 33rd team. And we can only take one player from each team. And always the sign of disrespect is the 2 teams that we take the kicker and the punter from. So after the top 11 guys, the rest of the roster is unprotected. We can take anyone we want, but we have to fill out all the spots. So we have to take a kicker and a punter from one of the 2 teams. We took a kicker or a punter from San Fran because we really couldn't find whoever the 12th best player wasn't good enough to start on whatever this hypothetical roster was. So I going through this exercise always tells me, certain teams are deeper than I think. Certain teams are better than I think. Certain teams are worse than I think. And one of my big takeaways that we talked about at the end of the series was this San Fran roster that's projected to win 10.5 games has some serious problems, especially in the trenches. And I think this is them trying to solve one of those and taking a chance on a guy in Huff who did have a really good year 2 years ago. I was really excited about the signing when they made it. But something that you have to give Howie credit for is there's no sunk cost fallacy. He figures out the best way. If it doesn't work out, he gets out of it. He's not going to commit to his mistakes. He's going to, move on and, move to the next best thing.
Hey, you know what? Bryce Huff still gets a ring.
Yeah, exactly.
Still got paid, still got his money, and now he's in San Francisco playing for his former coach. I see that he posted on Instagram deuces in an Eagles gear. Hey, no hard feelings. It didn't work out. The season was a success. On to the next. I'm just so appreciative that Howie Roseman is that good at what he does, and to be able to unload a guy like Huff, which had nothing of substance to show for 2.5 sacks last year, coming off a great season with the Jets. So we'll see what happens there. Once again, Bryce Huff, breaking news. It seems like he's heading out west to San Francisco. Adam Schefter had it first around 2:00. Now, the June 1st, if you could give it to us without getting in too much of the details, the significance of that date, Mark.
Yeah, there's a lot of things with June 1 deadline, and you'll see a lot of post designated after June 1 cuts. And there's just, it's one of the wrinkles in the NFL salary cap. There's a deadline on certain things, and once that passes, you can cut guys. But I think it was a couple years ago that they it basically doesn't even matter anymore because things happen, and it's just they don't officially happen until June 1st. But it's not like any of us are watching the league wire. So when it gets reported, in our mind, it happened. But technically, it won't happen for a couple days. I think Darius Slay was released with a post-June 1 like designation. So technically he's not on the Steelers yet, even though he's been signed there for 2 months.
A perfect day to have Mark Henry Jr. here. As you can hear, he knows all about the details. And take me on this one because, again, the deal with Bryce Huff, now it looks like it's going to free up a ton of money. Again, he was set to make about $17 million fully guaranteed this season. Now, somebody that's just an average NFL fan, average Eagles fan goes, ooh, now we could probably go out and re-sign a guy or sign a guy, somebody that maybe could be a free agent, maybe make a trade. Would you say that that's probably where Howie's mind is, or are you under the impression now that this has freed up some money, so therefore you can go ahead and pay the guys that are currently here with the Eagles that have been really good draft picks, like Jalen Carter would start there?
Yeah, I'd guess that he'll be paying the people he's allowed to pay as soon as possible. And this is what that's saving up for. And I think he thinks that, the NFL, the money per position, per top 5 at position, or, that's how the franchise tag is the average of the top 5 guys at that position. And that number is going to climb up for every single position year after year, just because of the nature of the salary cap, just because of the nature of the NFL being the biggest sport. And I don't see any stop to that. And that's why, with the new TV deal that was coming, there was a lot of talk that Lurie and Howie were pushing things down the road because, they know that the bill's never really going to come due. But that's kind of that's the example right there of them kind of being ahead of the curve and kind of realizing that stuff. But it's very clear that if you get a guy a year or two before he hits free agency while he's still on your roster, you might be able to get a pay cut technically for what the team is doing, because that market's going to change 2 years later. That top 5 player is probably going to get $3 million, $5 million more per year. Just by the natural progression of things.
All right. Well, football season, we are 97 days away from kickoff for the Eagles and Cowboys. Who's counting down? I saw Scott Hansen said we are 100 days away from the first Sunday. Of course, NFL football with the red zone, quad box, octo box, all of the above. Yeah, football season is inching closer, that's for sure. But folks, we got ourselves a pretty damn good baseball team. And they got themselves a series coming up here against the Milwaukee Brewers. Let's head down to Citizens Bank Park, and we are joined by Luke Arcaini, covers the Phillies for us here on The Gambler. All things MLB. Read him over at crossingbroad.com. Does a bang-up job. It's been there all week. Saw a great game, won against the Braves. Yesterday, they opened up with a 5-4 victory in Game 1, then got smashed in Game 2. I want to open up with this one, Luke. Great to have you on today. Of course, Mark Henry Jr., myself. I know that the Brew Crew is in town, and there's a talking point with Reese Hoskins, and there's a lot to get into with that. But allow me to hit the rewind button and go back to last night's game where Wheeler struggled again against this Atlanta Braves team. And I know that Wheeler is an incredible pitcher, and I'm not worried about it one bit. I'm just curious, what is your take on that? And is it anything significant if these two teams were to meet up in the playoffs? You know where I'm going with this. Is this something that we should be concerned about, that Atlanta's comfortable against one of the best damn pitchers in baseball, and Zach Wheeler?
I mean, yeah. Yes and no. I don't really think it's anything truly to write home about. But I think matter of fact is Wheeler just threw some bad pitches. I mean, it's not like he got rocked all night. It was one inning. He allowed 4 runs in the first inning. I don't believe he allowed a hit before that. It might have been like 1. So, I mean, he was cruising early. Just got knocked around a little bit in the 4th. Listen, I think, him going Game 2 and both of the games yesterday, I try not to take too much in the doubleheaders. They just always tend to end up a little funky. And not like he really got thrown out of his sort of routine that much. I mean, even though he was technically supposed to pitch Wednesday. But no, I mean, I don't take a ton into it. He's still Zach Wheeler. We know he only gets better once the calendar hits October. I am not necessarily worried about Zach Wheeler at all.
All right. And Mark, obviously, if you have any questions for Luke live at Citizens Bank Park, please fire away. But again, a significant series. They took 2 of 3 against the Atlanta Braves. Luke, I just want to know from your perspective, being able to see that game up close 2 nights ago and obviously watching both games yesterday. I know that the Atlanta Braves have been plagued by injury and it's been some funky stuff that they're dealing with, but man, they got some pretty good names when they step in that box. And of course, the pitching staff. And I feel like we've been waiting for them to hit the gas pedal. And even as bad as they are, they're still floating around 500 right now. Your thoughts after watching Atlanta Braves up close? Is this a team that's going to figure it out coming up soon here? And you won't be surprised if they're in the playoffs this year.
No, yeah, I think this team. I mean, granted, listen, everyone in the National League is going to have to fight for a playoff spot this year. Nobody is going to cakewalk into this playoffs. I don't care if you're the Dodgers, if you're the Phillies. It doesn't matter. Everyone's going to have to earn their spot this year in the National League because it's a loaded league. It's miles more competitive than the American League this year. But yeah, I mean, this is a good Braves team. They've always been a good baseball team. They were a good baseball team last year. They were just always hurt. When they're healthy, they're good. I mean, Ronald Acuna, Marcell Ozuna, Matt Olson, Austin Riley, Ozzie Albies, Michael Harris. I will say yesterday seemed like a tough blow, another one to their pitching staff. That's going to be a situation for me where that's going to be their main concern at the deadline. They're going to need a starter. AJ Smith-Shawver went down yesterday, said he felt a pop in his elbow, which I think we all know what that ends up leading to. So that is not good. He had a pretty nice start to his season. But yeah, that's a scrappy little Braves team. They're never out of the game. They have the pop. They have the stars. They have one of the best players in all of baseball. They have a guy in Ronald Acuna who I think is one of the more skilled players all around in the last 25, 30 years in baseball. So that's a good little team. That's a nice series win for the Phillies. And they have another big one this weekend, starting in about 3.5 hours here.
All right. We got Luke Arcaini live from CBP. Yeah, that's interesting. Mark said he doesn't think you can hear him. I don't.
Testing?
Try that.
Testing?
Can you hear that?
There we are.
Oh, I know you.
Okay,
Yeah, I was
cool.
gonna say. Yeah. We're running three. We're running three wide. I knew you could hear him. Yeah.
Weave.
Yeah, three-man weave. Let's go here.
Three-man
All
weave.
right. Again, and look, they took 2 or 3. This team continues to win. We got a pretty good series in baseball going down tonight. Rematch of the World Series between the Yankees and the Dodgers. Phillies are right up there with every one of these teams and a lot to like. But there's even more so to like about this team when Bryce Harper's back in the lineup. Could we expect now, again, full disclosure, I haven't checked my timeline, been running around like a maniac all afternoon, have no idea what's been said. Do we expect Bryce Harper back in the lineup tonight?
No, so he is out tonight. He's not in the lineup tonight.
Oh.
And to be quite frank with you, I wouldn't expect to see him this entire weekend.
Really?
Yeah, so he talked to a few reporters about 20 minutes ago and said he's still super sore. He has not swung a bat yet since he got hit. He said he doesn't think he'll swing one today, although he still hopes he will avoid a stint on the injured list. It doesn't seem like this is an IL thing. It just seems like something that he's really sore. It's not really any sort of big time bruise or anything. He's just really sore. I forget exactly the wording that he called it. He called it something just he's more than day to day, but it's not the injured list. So I think they're just going to continue just rest him up. There's no reason to throw him back in a game in May if he's still sore. They will find their way through it. Alec Boehm will probably play first base for a good portion of this weekend. But yeah, no, there's no reason for him to just be tossed back out there this weekend if he's not ready. So he is not in the lineup tonight. Pretty normal lineup other than Bryce. Marsh is in center. Sosa's at third. Bohm's at first. Other than that, everything's just about the same.
All right. We got Luke Arcaini, of course, crossingbroad.com. Read him over there live from Citizens Bank Park. And I know that no Bryce Harper in the lineup, but still he had an opportunity to, I believe, speak to the Inquirer, I want to say, if I'm not mistaken. He talked about Kyle Schwarber's extension. I love it. What did he have to say, though, Luke?
Yeah, so he was, basically everything you expect Bryce to say. The guy who is practically a GM, but he's really not. It's obvious. I mean, everyone wants Schwarber back. Harper wants Schwarber back. He made it pretty obvious. I mean, he he basically said that he is worth the money. He's a leader in the clubhouse, and he's just an awesome guy to have around on and off the field. I couldn't tell you one person in this organization that doesn't want Kyle Schwarber back on this team next year. He is obviously priority number one. I know Preston Mattingly spoke a few days ago, and he said Schwarber is an obvious number one priority for them. Sean, I'd give this about a 99% chance that he's coming back. To me, there is just no possible shot that they let this guy leave the clubhouse. He's too important on the field, and arguably he's too important off the field as well. It's just, he is an all-around leader. He's one of the best signings that this team has ever had. He's on a bargain of a contract. He makes less than $20 million a year. And he is going to make more than that. I will tell you that his next contract is going to be more than the 19 and a half that he makes right now a year. But he is priority number one for them. Obviously, Bryce Harper wants him back. And I think everybody here, everyone that's listening, everyone that's on Twitter, I haven't seen many people that don't want Kyle Schwarber back on this team after this.
I'm not even worried about it. With Dombrowski's comments,
I'm not either.
I really don't see a scenario where he's not brought back. I think Dombrowski tops whatever offer he gets given. But Luke, I wanted to check in and ask about McAble. I saw he had another good outing in the minors. I feel at this point with the bullpen the way it is, I get it if they're trying to keep him as a starter and keep him in his routine. I think they need to find a way to use Abel and Painter pretty soon on the major league roster, whether that's shuffling around who's currently starting or putting them into the bullpen. I don't think Painter's starting until, the end of the year probably. But is there any chance we see either of them soon? Any chance we see Abel in the bullpen?
Yeah. So as far as Abel, they like him as a starter right now. Obviously this team has a lot of starting pitching. You could say, and I always say you can never have enough pitching. Right now they have a little too many starting pitchers. Yeah, as far as Abel, I think down the road, I think it's an option. I think it's going to have to be an option because they obviously lose Alvarado. I don't think you're getting the Max Strom you got last year right now. So they're going to need a guy. Obviously, it did seem like they reached out to former Philly David Robertson, but he wanted like $15 million a year or something like that, some outrageous price.
He's on a farm.
So I don't think that's happening. They're going to have to get creative eventually because I think they're going to have to do something to this bullpen before the trade deadline. I don't think it needs to be, some big drastic thing. But I think eventually down the road, I think Ranger to the pen might have to be an option for them eventually once Nola comes back. And it seems like Nola is back to the Nola we know if that does happen. But yeah, it's going to have to be an option probably for Abel. As far as Andrew Painter, it seems like they're still on the same timeline. I believe it was Tuesday we spoke to Rob, and he basically said it's the same plan July-ish. To me, it seems more early July to me rather than late. I don't know how many more 85, 90 pitch starts you can have him throw in AAA. So I think eventually he's going to come up, I think, closer to the beginning of July rather than the end of July. But it seems like his debut will still be in the month of July. Maybe if somebody were to go down and they would really need him, maybe it would be June. But they are hell-bent on his plan. They have a strict plan for him, and they are sticking to that July timeline.
All right, Luke Arcaini live from Citizens Bank Park. I did not know that. First of all, Rhys Hoskins returning. That's a big talking point. A lot of focus on the former slugger for the Phillies. Great to have him back. I know he did a podcast with Todd Zalecki and Ruben Amari. Yeah. And I know that you put out a quote, so I know you listened to it. Anything there of substance? Again, Rhys Hoskins, a Philly fan favorite, and he's going to get a roaring round of applause. It's going to be a lot of fun to have him back in the ball yard again, but still, it's the Brew Crew, and this is a big series, but your thoughts on Rhys returning yet again?
Yeah, no, it'll be cool. I mean, he's one of my favorite Phillies of my lifetime. I still think he's one of the more underappreciated Phillies. There was no hope. There was not a lot of hope before Reese came up. Those 2016, 2017 days, they were dark. And the Phillies brought this guy up in Hoskins, and he hit like 8 home runs and like 50 at bats, and he really started to give Phillies fans hope again. He was the guy that the long guy. I mean, it was him and Aaron Nola. Those are the two guys that have been with this team through just about everything. So yeah, I mean, it's always nice to see him back. He's just an awesome dude. Him and his wife have done so much in the community here in Philly, out in Milwaukee now that they're out there. Just a really good, down-to-earth dude. I'm excited to see him again tonight. Yeah, the interviews are interesting, man, because, you know, these, and they're not necessarily rumors. They're just, you know, some sparks.
Yep.
I wrote an article for Crossing Broad that kind of got some of it moving, and it had a little more views on that article as far as Twitter than I thought it was going to. But yeah, I mean, if you're okay with Bryce moving back to the outfield, if that's something that they're truly committed to be open to, and I mean, Harper said in the offseason, if they were to go after Alonso, he would be willing to move back to the outfield. He said that last offseason. If that's still the plan, I mean, it kind of makes sense. If the Brewers are still floating around that 500 mark around the trade deadline, they might not necessarily sell all the way, but they could look into a guy in Reese who's on an expiring contract, making a good amount of money. They do have a mutual option next year, but it just kind of makes a little sense to me. I don't know. It's very, you know, based off of the fan reaction right now, it's extremely split. But it's a guy who's on pace for the best batting average of his career, the best on base percentage of his career. He said on the podcast that he made a bit of a swing adjustment about 2-3 weeks ago. And it's really been helping him. He's not getting as high on the leg kick. It's more now like a toe tap, and it's really helped him. There's not necessarily maybe as much power as the old Reese that we know, but I mean, he still has, I think, 7 or 8 home runs this year. I think his slugging percentage is around the 450 mark. So I mean, he's still getting the ball out of the ballpark. But I think it's on the table. I don't necessarily think it's some like number one priority for them to go get Reese Hoskins at the deadline. But if the Brewers do look to sell any bit, I think Reese is probably at the top of that list just because he's on that expiring contract and he makes a lot of money. But yeah, I mean, I think it could definitely be on the table in a few months.
It couldn't make more sense. I mean, they need a right-handed bat. They need a power infusion. Even still, with his power being a little down, he's still on pace to hit 23, 24 homers this year. He's got 4 years. He's had between 27 to 34 homers here as a Philly, 125 OPS plus as a Philly when he was here. Currently a 135 OPS plus. The Reese Hoskins, the way some fans talk about him just shows that, you know, this is one of the, you know, dumbest fan base, and I'm part of it, and I get dumb sometimes too. But this fan base is, you know, toxic beyond belief. The fact that we don't have anything but only positive memories about a guy who was here for 7 years, a guy who was part of our World Series run to the World Series, a guy who never had an OPS below 794, never had an OPS plus below 112. It boggles my mind that there's nothing but absolutely positive memories and thoughts about this guy. It's a joke.
A lot of toxicity on that timeline, Mark. Sometimes you got to mute some names, right?
Absolutely.
I know.
You're absolutely correct.
You told me that one. All right, we'll get you out of here on this one, Luke. Appreciate an extended visit here live from Citizens Bank Park. Make sure you're following Luke on all things socials. Read him at crossingbroad.com. Once again, DL Hall, the lefty getting the start. Was not sure who was actually going to get the start tonight, but it looks like that's the case. It is the case. It's not looking like that's the case. Taijuan Walker will be getting the start for the Phillies. Phillies are a minus 115 favorite here. 9.5 is our total. I believe they're going to get this game, man. However, I did just hear Cecily Tynan talk about 1 to 3 inches tonight possible. So who the heck knows what is going on with the weather around. But if this game is played, how are we feeling about game 1 tonight at the bank here for the Phils?
Yeah, I'm all over a Schwarbaum tonight. The dude's just been crushing lefties. I mean, he's got a 1.170 OPS. He's slugging 733 against lefties this year. I will take a Schwarbaum tonight. I'm also going to take Trey 2 bags and Phillies money line, so we can toss that together and look at what those odds come out to. That's my little 3-legger tonight for the game.
I dig it. All right. Great stuff as usual, Luke. Can't thank you enough for popping by here. Enjoy the game. We'll continue to follow you on all things socials as you take in tonight's game. Hopefully they get this one in. And we'll be back on Monday recapping it all, as always, right here on the Daily Ticket. Luke Arcaini live from Citizens Bank Park. Always a pleasure, sir.
Sir, thank you, guys.
My man, there he is. Great stuff there. While I have you, Mark, let's hear this one from yesterday. I believe Scott Fransky, with one of his better calls as usual, just keeps it plain, keeps it simple. Let's have a listen.
The right-hander's pitch. Swung on, blasted. Nobody's catching that one. Way gone up into the second deck. Kyle Schwarber gives the Phillies the breathing room.
Oh, that's so good. Courtesy of the Phillies Radio Network right there. One more time for the people on the back.
The right-hander's pitch. Swung on, blasted. Nobody's catching that one.
So good.
I'll say I'm famously not a T-Mac guy. Generally, I think T-Mac's overrated. I love Fransky. Think he's one of the best in the business. What I will say, he nailed the strike 3 call in game 1 of the doubleheader yesterday with bases loaded, obviously 2 outs in the 9th. Big moment. To me, that felt like the biggest moment of the year right there so far. And that bottom of the 9th, it felt like, that at bat really decided the game no matter what. You're only up 1 run. You had nothing left in the bullpen to go to if that game even just went to extras, let's say that. And then, you was either finish it right there or it felt like a loss with a game coming that night that we already knew was going to be difficult with the bullpen guys that we used in the first game. So maybe it was, parlayed with the fact that we had the knowledge that the second game of the doubleheader was going to be tough. But when you have a shallow bullpen the way that we do, it's going to make doubleheaders tough. So I felt like getting that win, clinching the series win, was to me the biggest moment of the year so far, especially, came down to that one single at bat. It felt like.
Yeah. Yesterday was a great game 1. Game 2 kind of just like sucked the wind out of it and just was like, all right, well, keep it moving. And normally I would. It's just that Wheeler got hit up pretty good in game 1, the first time that they matched up down in Atlanta. And oh, by the way, it was the same pitching matchup, Chris Sale and Zach Wheeler. This is intriguing. This one struck me as a surprise. Chris Sale made history yesterday. Did you see that?
Yeah.
First, he is now the youngest pitcher, or sailed the fastest to 2,500 Ks, and he took it from Randy Johnson. That was that caught me off guard there. I know Chris Sale's amazing. Like, nobody has to explain that to me. I know he's been dominant, but the age and he did it the fastest. It was very intriguing. It is a big time number. I do have a write up here from MLB Network. The last of his 8 strikeouts was the 2,500 of his career. He is the 38th pitcher in modern history to hit the milestone and just the 40th to ever do it. Per the Elias Sports Bureau, he is the first pitcher to ever reach this mark in less than 2,026 innings or less.
Yeah, I mean, Sale's unbelievable. I think Atlanta, I walk out of the series feeling like Atlanta's, back to being really good. I heard my buddy Jack Fritz kind of saying like, oh, the Atlanta era's over. It's Phillies Mets for now on. I think we had Atlanta, missed Strider and Acuna for the first 2 months of this year. Now they're back, and I think they looked like the team I expected them to look like. Obviously, tagged Wheeler in game 3. I don't put too much stock into that. Wheeler's had the best start of his career leading into that game. I don't really care too much. Wheeler gets a little grace from me for sure. And honestly, if you're going to pick a bad game to have a bad outing or a game to have a bad outing in, that was not a bad one to do. We had already won the series. You had a tired bullpen. So even if you had a good game, the offense didn't score anyway. So, get your stinker out of the way. I'm fine with it. But even in the first game of the doubleheader, no pitcher out of the bullpen came in and just had a clean inning. They got after every single guy. And Kirkring did
never easy.
No, the Braves fought every inning of that game one. The first game, even Ranger got out of jams, but I felt like they were hitting Ranger pretty hard. Ranger was just able to get out of, first and second bases loaded type situations a couple times, which he's better at than anybody. I think Atlanta's going to be right back in the mix. They're already barely under 500. They started 1-8. So if you look at since then, they're like 25-20 in the last 45 games. I think they'll probably continue more at that pace.
Yeah, and Spencer Strider will eventually come into Spencer Strider form as he threw 90 pitches and looked pretty good in that first game against the Phillies. And by the way, not picking on Jack Fritz by no means, but it's like, all right, let's look at the schedule before you start saying stuff like that. In June/early July, essentially June 9th is when you really look at them in that schedule and go, okay, now's a good time for the Braves to turn it on from a betting perspective. It's not what I want per se, but from a betting perspective, they get the Brewers, then they get the Rockies. It's always good when you have the Rockies on the calendar. Then the Mets, the Marlins, then they get the Braves or the Mets again. Then they get the Phillies. So before that June 9th to a little before 4th of July, that could be a spot where the Braves hit the gas pedal and show the people that they're not exactly just done yet in the conversation. We'll talk a little bit more about that one as we get closer in the month of June.
It'll be tough for them to get into the division in terms of winning the division, but they can still win a wild card pretty easily.
Yeah, definitely. And make life miserable for everybody in front of them too as well. So, all right. And you know what? I do have one here, Mark, while we're still on MLB. And as I brought up the schedule for the Braves, they will be taking on the Angels on July the 1st. Mike Trout returning to the Angels today. Is it a bad thing if I really didn't know that Mike Trout was hurt? And the Angels have been good too, which is crazy. Look, I had a busy May. Okay, we had a birth of my child and things took me off. But I was like, wow, Trout was hurt. I don't even remember him getting hurt. But he missed 23 games, if I'm not mistaken. He was returning today. He had 9 home runs. I remember he was hitting a couple bombs to start the season. But Mike Trout back. And, I don't want to dig too much on him because he's one of the greats to ever played a game. And I'm a huge Mike Trout fan. But this is just par for the course where it's like he's out there and, I live and eat, sleep, and drink this stuff. And I was like, Trout was hurt? Like, maybe I remember that. I don't know. But I've been paying attention to the Angels too, and they've been actually winning games. So it hit me a little bit where it's like, it's like I said, more of the same. Par for the course. He's out there with the Angels, and life is easy. And I know Washington's the coach and all that, but would just like Trout to be in a little bit more of a spot that we could watch a little bit more. Let's put it that way.
It's too late now. It's not even interesting. The 48 games in 2 years he's played. Like I don't even. It's not even like let's get him to a good team anymore. It's like let's see if he can play baseball. It's crazy. It's a shame.
Very true on that one. Very true. All right, quickly on this Phillies tonight. Like them? Anything for you in the game?
I don't love tonight. I'm staying away. The bullpen. Everybody in it pitched yesterday. You have
high number at 9.5. That's kind of telling me something there.
Yeah, I would lean towards the over if I was going to take anything in the game. I would lean towards the over. I think the Brewers probably win tonight if you made me guess. And then the Phillies probably answer back tomorrow. Obviously, Taiwan is the worst you're going to feel about any guy who goes on the mound for the Phillies. Obviously, he's got a 2.98 ERA. It's been really good. I think, he could explode any inning and give up 5 home runs and none of us would be surprised. So I think Minnesota. I think Milwaukee probably gets it done tonight.
All right. And then finally in the world of baseball, 10:10 p.m. What will you be doing out there on a Friday night? Will you be watching the Yankees and the Dodgers game 1? Of course, these two teams faced off in the Fall Classic, where the Dodgers defeated the Yankees in 5 games, their first championship since 1988, looking to defend the title. Yankees are looking good right now. First time that the Yankees made the World Series in 15 years. Mark, would you be shocked if these two teams were back at it in October?
No, definitely not. What I will say is do not bet against the Dodgers when they're an underdog. I think it's dumb that they're ever an underdog. I know how good Max Fried is. The Yankees have a better record than the Dodgers. I think the Dodgers are an underdog to nobody. So I get that there's a pitching disparity tonight. I'm not betting the game, but if I was going to bet the game, I'd bet the Dodgers in that one.
Gonsolin plus 105 at home. Total coming in at 9. Max Fried, as Mark pointed out, pretty damn good season so far. Minus a 125. One quick one, though. You do have a play in the Padres and the Pirates?
Yep. Only one play tonight. I was looking at Rays Astros over 7.5. I thought about that one, ended up staying away. But yeah, going with Padres minus 1.5. Pivetta has been really, really good. 2.7 ERA for San Diego. And Mitch Keller is one of Pittsburgh's better starters, but San Diego actually has pretty good numbers against him. San Diego played Pittsburgh 3 times already this month, smoked them in 2 of those games. This Pirates team absolutely stinks. So give me the Padres minus 1.5 plus 120. I thought that was a really good price on the run line here for the Padres.
All right, got Mark Henry Jr. for the first hour. We're going to take a quick timeout. We're going to come back, and then we're going to get over to the world of the NFL. You know, like, of course, the Titanic was taken down by an iceberg, right? And there's some teams out there in the world of the NFL that Mark right now thinks are steering directly for that iceberg and are going to go down like the Titanic. Land ho! The captain, Mark Henry Jr., is going to have some fun to talk about some teams in the NFL that are going the wrong direction. Also, inside the insiders, of course, we had some breaking news earlier from the insider in the NFL. It's fair to say if we were power ranking the insider, Schefter's got to be 1, right?
Yeah.
He's top dog. Who's 2?
Probably Shams.
No, NFL.
Ian. Oh, Ian.
Ian's 2?
Yeah, and then Coffee Boy is 3. Schultz.
Wow. Coffee Boy, he had one about your tight end from Atlanta.
My God. Oh,
yeah, we got some insight.
Free my man.
Insiders in the NFL. We'll hit that as well. A lot to discuss. Even some Cowboys conversation. Pretty good wide receiving room right now. Dak Prescott, of course, he's the focal point when it comes to all things Cowboys. A lot to discuss. Mark Henry Jr. riding with me for the first hour. Don't touch that dial. Keep it locked right here. More after this.
Spring is in the air, and it's time to swing for the fences. Our MLB coverage is bringing heat all season long.
Everybody moves up 90 feet.
Be sure to catch Luke Arcaini and Sean Brace on the Daily Ticket. Only one place that covers all the action. It's The Gambler.
The city.
Las Vegas.
Vegas, make some noise!
The event.
Our legendary iHeartRadio Music Festival.
Presented by Capital One.
Live. Welcome. One stage.
2 nights. The biggest stars in music return this September.
To make history.
The world's biggest artists are taking this stage.
Stream live only on Hulu.
I said, woo!
Listen right here as the star-studded lineup is revealed.
Tuesday morning.
At 8.
Try Rita's new Kool-Aid Charcoberry Thin Ice. Oh, yeah.
Fox Sports Radio, The Gambler. Now, total traffic for Philadelphia.
Which on the Walt Whitman into New Jersey, that 42 South Lake Creek Road. Traffic stopped at the Burlington-Bristol Bridge for a lift bridge opening. 295 northbound calling 130 to 42. With a crash, the right lane is blocked. 95 northbound stopping the Girard up the bridge. All right, to tell a total traffic.
This report is sponsored by Wendy's new Frosty flavors. Love Wendy's classic chocolate and vanilla Frosty flavors? Announcing all new Frosty Swirl and Frosty Fusion flavors. The same creamy treat you love, now with a flavor refresh. Refresh on a classic? Gotta be Wendy's. Open till midnight or later at participating U.S. Wendy's. Hours may vary by location.
You want to see basketball played the way it's supposed to be? Tune in to Ice Cube's Big 3 this summer. Watch stars like Dwight Howard, Kemba Walker, Joe Johnson, Michael Beasley, and many more, along with Hall of Fame coaches. Experience the fast pace and physical play and fun action that defines the game. You know what it is. It's the Big 3. It's the best professional 3-on-3 players in the world. Live every weekend on CBS and Vice. Oh, yay, yay!
I always lose so many golf balls. You're still buying those overpriced balls there? What other choice do I have? Premium balls aren't cheap. They are if you get them from buymyballs.com. I told you, that's balls with a Z. Same top brands, way less cash.
Wait, so you're playing premium golf balls and don't care if you lose them?
Nope. I just reload and keep swinging it and dinging it.
All right, First thing after this round, I'm hitting buymyballs.com. Stop overpaying for premium golf balls. Get yours at buymyballs.com. That's balls with a Z.
The last thing anyone wants is to leave behind confusion, stress, or worse, family conflict. That's why estate planning isn't just for the wealthy. It's for families like mine, and probably like yours. With Trust and Will, I created my estate plan in minutes, from naming guardians for my kids to putting our house in a trust to avoid probate. Fast, affordable, and way easier than I thought. Every plan is designed by estate planning attorneys and customized for your state. Plans start at just $199 and include essentials like healthcare directives and power of attorney. With Trust and Will's bank-level security and built-in privacy protections, your personal information and your wishes stay safe. Whether you're newly married, raising kids, caring for aging parents, or just want peace of mind, Trust and Will makes it easy to protect what matters most. Go to trustandwill.com, use code RADIO at checkout, and save 20% on your personalized plan. Because there's no better time to protect the people you love. Trust and Will is an online estate planning service. See website for details.
Bird Gang, football season is coming and the link will be rocking. From rookies to NFC showdowns, make sure you're part of the action. TickPick has you covered with no hidden fees and the lowest price guarantee. So whether you're heading to a rivalry game or just want a weekend experience, you'll pay less and get more. TickPick gives you all-in-one pricing and the lowest price guarantee. They're so confident, they back it up with their best price guarantee. Visit TickPick.com and score your seats before the best matchups are gone. $10 off your NFL order with code FS10 on the TickPick app.
Grab your shades, your flip-flops, and your free iHeartRadio app for the start of summer 2025. No matter where you go this summer, your favorite radio station, the music you love, and the best podcasts in the world will be along for the adventure. Make sure you have the free iHeartRadio app in your phone today.
The peace lily is so last year. Hey, has anyone worked with fiddlenecks?
Shelby's popular flower shop is in full bloom.
We just got a request for an arrangement that evokes air. Who's up for that challenge? No?
She needs to hire a floral designer to nip foliage faux pas in the bud.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Our advanced matching helps find talented candidates so you can connect with them fast. Redeem your $75 credit at Indeed.com/credit. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey, man, you all right? Need me to call 911? No. Call Top Dog Law. Get top dollar for your accident at topdoglaw.com. Once again, that's topdoglaw.com.
You know what this is? Here's Sean Brace on the Daily Ticket. Daily Ticket on Fox Sports Radio, The Gambler.
Hey now. Yes, it's a Friday here. A lot going on in the Philadelphia sports world. Just had Luke Arcaini live from Citizens Bank Park. Once again, Phillies and Brewers coming your way. Slight favorites with Taijuan Walker on the mound, minus 115 DraftKings Sportsbook. Talk a little bit more about the Phillies later in the program and even in the NBA as well. We haven't discussed too much as far as the Knicks extending the series back to Indiana. They go for Game 6. Of course, Pat McAfee and John Cougar Mellencamp was taking the timeline by storm yesterday. Johnny Cougs, how about it? Little ditty about Jack and Diane.
That was not great. Not great for the vibes for my Pacers. The John Mellencamp post. Didn't like it. The white font. Not good. Not good.
The graphic. I couldn't even read it.
Brutal graphic.
Come on, Johnny Cougs. Yeah.
Great song.
Yes, absolutely. He does have some. I was born in a small town. That's a terrible John Cougar. Sorry. Little Pink Houses, I think, was the name of the song too, if I'm not mistaken, right? Yeah, he's got some hits. He's got some hits. Yeah. You don't want to see Hoosier on Hoosier crime. Come on, Johnny Cougs, lighten up a little bit.
One against the family.
Hey, before we get into some of the things that are happening around the NFL, we got Inside the Insiders, and Mark has a few teams that are heading straight for an iceberg. I do want to bring this up. Speaking of water, we got ourselves an anniversary coming up. A big-time anniversary. Of course, you know what this music is, right?
Yeah, of course.
It's Jaws.
Is it 50?
50. 50. Wow. In the month of June, I believe June 20th. Now, I know we're not there, but it's coming up here. 50 years since Jaws was released. Jaws freaked the hell out of me.
Great movie.
Great. Yeah, look, they had a couple of them. Still putting them out. How many Jaws movies do you think they had?
There's one Jaws though. I don't consider any of the other. I think I've seen Jaws 2. I don't think they've made a new one in a long time though. I think there's other shark movies now. They just call them Into the Deeper, whatever. I don't know what they're called, but Blake Lively was in one. I remember.
Was she?
Yeah, bad. Not a great shark movie.
So the franchise, there's only 4.
Yeah.
It was Jaws, Jaws 2, Jaws 3D back in 1983. 3D in 83. Oof, I can only imagine what that looked like. And then Jaws the Revenge in 87. If I'm not mistaken, the one, it had to be the Revenge, where they were at the in the islands. Yeah, Michael Caine was in that one. That's what it was. And the SeaWorld marine biologist. I'm telling you, Jaws has freaked me out. Like anytime you step in the water, you wonder where the sharks are. I don't know. Definitely bothered me.
Jaws is great. I'm going to Universal, big Universal guy. Right after, I guess, the 50th anniversary. I wonder if they'll have a big thing there. They used to have a Jaws ride. Unfortunately, long gone. That's a bad decision they made, but they still sell a lot of Jaws merch.
Yes, you're right about that. All right, keeping it moving. I know you're a big movie buff. What's the best movie you've seen lately?
The best movie I've seen in 5 years is Sinners.
Ooh, I need to go. I'm trying to go. A lot of good movies coming out.
Yeah. Friendship was good. Saw that with Tim Robinson. But yeah, Sinners is literally since 2019 the best movie that I've seen. By far my favorite movie of the decade so far.
I spoke to John Jansen, our movie aficionado here on the game. You're taking that title just so you know, because Jansen doesn't even, who knows what he's doing. He told me where he's working. I'm like, how the hell? I didn't even know you were there. But it was good to connect with Jansen, the movie aficionado that he is. All right, let's get on over to the world of the NFL. Mark Henry Jr. And I know that you have some teams that you wanted to roll out there on your show that you think are heading straight for the iceberg that are going to get chewed up by Jaws himself. We'll get into that in just a second. But inside the Insiders NFL edition, let's go with Coffee Boy from the jump. Jordan Schultz says multiple teams have reached out to the Falcons for Kyle Pitts. Is that smart to move off of him already with Michael Penix? Why not give those guys an opportunity to get something going? Or am I missing something when it comes to Kyle Pitts? And I know you're a big Kyle Pitts fan.
Yeah, I just think they're done with him. It seems like he had the OC had some comments about him maybe not understanding the system and not wanting to play fast. And the OC had some crazy Kyle Pitts comments that I think that's fueling a lot of the rumors, if I had to guess personally. But yeah, I wouldn't move off them if I was them. But I also think he probably needs just a fresh coat of paint somewhere new, a new setting. It's crazy to believe he had 1,000 yards as a rookie. He has just not touched anything like that since. I don't know what the right landing spot is for him, kind of a high-powered offense that needs a tight end that can split out wide. I'd have to kind of look into that, but I definitely would like to see him in a new situation.
Also, Jonnu Smith is possibly being moved. Is that just smoke? You don't believe anything will happen there?
It seems legitimate. It seems like it's all the way it was reported was like it was like a done deal, and then it's like just talks, and I haven't heard anything in terms of updating it. I don't get it for Pittsburgh. You have Pat Freiermuth, not that he's a great tight end, but Jonnu Smith had a good year last year for the first time in his career. I don't really understand going up and giving up like real assets to get Jonnu Smith, and I also don't really understand Miami moving off of Jonnu Smith.
Yes.
So like both sides of it don't make sense to me. Miami is on this list for sure that we're going to talk about.
Nice. Yeah, I was wondering why would Miami get off it, but you answered that one. All right. During an appearance this morning on 98.5 The Sports Hub, Albert Breer outlined the possibility of the Patriots cutting ties with four-time Pro Bowler receiver Stephon Diggs, who they just signed to a 3-year, $63.5 million contract in free agency worth about $25 million guaranteed money, of course, because of the pink bag by the name of Tusi that he got caught on a camera. What are you doing, Diggs? Would that be the right move for Vrabel to move off of Diggs because of that video? Do you think it's a possibility? Do you think it will happen? Your thoughts on that?
No, I don't think it will happen. Albert Breer's probably like he did that radio hit in the middle of like reading, QAnon conspiracies. But
is he? Is he Q guy?
Oh yeah. He's tweeted. Yeah. He's tweeted some stuff that he's quickly deleted that I've like happened. I have tweet notifications on for like all the insider people, and
nice.
He's had some dandies. But yeah, I not an Albert Breer guy. I wouldn't buy that. But it did seem like Vrabel was really annoyed at Diggs in that press conference. He easily could have like not commented, but he very much made it known, like, got to make smart decisions, and did a whole thing about that. I thought the contract was a joke when they signed it. The fact that he went out with injury last year, he was good when he was playing, but I thought they gave him way too much money, and it was just a desperation. Not a lot of receivers out there. They really needed one, and that was the choice. They didn't want to draft Ted McMillan. They had to get O-line help. They should have went out and signed O-linemen and drafted Ted McMillan instead of the opposite that they did. That's just my opinion. But I don't think they do. I don't think they'll cut Diggs. I hated the contract when it started, and this kind of adds an off the field layer to that.
All right. And then finally, last one for you here, Mark. And this is one that I'm just wondering what's going on. But Ross Tucker hopped on a Chicago sports talk radio station to score out there. And I was talking about Caleb Williams, who is a lightning rod. And I understand that report came out from Seth Wickersham over at ESPN that had some interesting things that were put out there. And I wasn't sure if it was coming from Caleb Williams, his dad, but whatever. Caleb Williams spoke on it. I think they can move on. Anyways, I stumbled across this because this one I did not hear, but it's from last week. Listen to this. Ross Tucker, if he was a betting man, he said he would bet that Caleb Williams won't be the starting quarterback in 3 years for the Bears.
This point in the process, right? I would say it would be more surprising to me. Like if I had to bet, okay, is Caleb Williams going to be the Bears starting quarterback in 3 years? I'd probably bet no if I had to bet yes or no right now.
We'll explore
just based
that.
On
that's
what we've seen so far. I mean, and then it's like the sacks he takes, and that went back to college. I don't know, man. Like that's hard for quarterbacks to get rid of that. If they have a tendency to take a lot of sacks, that's hard for them to get rid of. So we'll see. Listen.
Boom. Anyways, I hear the sacks. I get it, but we're talking about a rookie. He had one season. He wasn't that bad. The Caleb Williams wasn't that bad that we're saying he's a bust and you need to already start looking into the future. Got a brand new head coach trying to fix the offensive line. They continue to surround him with some decent weapons. I would be shocked. Hey, Ross Tucker, I'll take your action. How about that? I am a betting man. I'll bet that he'll be the starting quarterback in 3 years and then some. You want to go 5? I'll go 5. He'll be the starting quarterback 5 years from now. He's going to get another contract.
I am more on your side of things. Okay. And I think Caleb Williams, I think he's insanely talented. I called him generational. Doesn't look like he's going to live up to that. But I thought he was a truly special prospect. I still think that what I will say is teams are more impatient than they've ever been, and teams move off of guys so quickly. I don't think what he's saying is so absurd in today's NFL with how fast a bad season can torpedo a guy, and you get a new, front office in there that wants to make their mark, and they have to decide if they want to pay him in 2 years. I don't think it's impossible. If you made me put a percentage on it, I'd probably say like 75% he is the quarterback in 3 years, 25% he's not.
Okay. I would just be shocked because you take him number 1 overall.
Yeah.
You think about if you are a team that takes a guy, a quarterback at number 1 overall and does not give him a second contract, wow, fire everybody. And I know that they essentially have and did, whatever. Now they got a new coach. And that's another reason why I believe that Johnson's the right guy to at least figure this out, have success with them, because I think he can have success with whatever quarterback back there. Most quarterbacks, let me just change that up. But Caleb Williams wasn't that bad. We'll see what happens again. The sacks, how about the offensive line helps him out a little bit? I think we start there, and I think that that's what they did target in the offseason. It is true, though, no excuses. The excuses, they're gone now. He needs to perform, and I would imagine there's going to be some serious expectations with the Bears moving forward. I
think they make the playoffs this year.
You know, I remember last year when everybody's favorite media man, Kyle, Good Morning Football.
Yeah, Brandt.
Kyle Brandt had him in the Super Bowl.
I had them in the playoffs last year as well, so I was wrong as well.
I was not buying the Bears stock last year like everybody else. Again, playoffs is one thing, but he was saying Super Bowl. It was ridiculous. All right. But you know what? Speaking of the Super Bowl, Mark Henry Jr., host of the Tough Cover radio show, said he's got a few teams that he believes are heading in the wrong direction. As a matter of fact, stealing the Titanic play, thinks that they're heading straight for an iceberg and will be sinking to the abyss. Let's talk about some of those teams on your list. Where are we starting with this discussion?
I mentioned San Fran, so I'll skip by them, but I think that division is full of potential iceberg teams, not the Rams, but Arizona. Jonathan Gannon's 12-22 as a head coach, closed last year going 2-6. He's been the coach for the worst football we've ever seen from Kyler Murray in his pro career at this point. The defense has not improved under Gannon to any measurable point at this point. They couldn't find the way to use their all-world first-round high draft pick in Marvin Harrison Jr. last year properly. I can't believe this is a team that brought back head coach, quarterback, play caller after 2 years of failure on all three counts. This is the third year for Gannon, the third year for Drew Petzing as the offensive coordinator, and the third year with Kyler in that system where he's only gotten worse each passing month, it feels like. So I think Arizona, they should have made a tweak somewhere, whether that's dealing Kyler and moving on from that perspective, which I'd understand. I think the guy might be a loser. Or if it would have been just hiring a new play caller, get rid of Petzing and hire a new OC. I think Seattle could fall into this as well. You moved on from the Pete Carroll and Geno era. You thought it was kind of mired in mediocrity. You're now in the Mike McDonald, Sam Darnold era. Is that much better? And year one with McDonald, they won one less game with the same quarterback, a similar roster, and he was the only real difference. There were actually some pieces that they added before last year, so the roster should have been even better. But if this year doesn't work out, now that you paid Sam Darnold, you better be able to pivot to Jalen Milroe the way Atlanta did with Michael Penix at the end of the year. I think McDonald is going to be in trouble if we're just closing this year and they go 6-11, 7-10, and Sam Darnold's not what they wanted him to be from Minnesota. I think you might be looking at a situation where McDonald's in and out of there in Seattle pretty fast. But I mentioned Dallas already. I mentioned San Fran already. There's a couple more I could say, but Cincinnati. They keep nickel and dime their way all over the board. Trey Hendrickson, they don't want to keep him around. They're toying around with him. Shamar Stewart, they're haggling over like rookie bonuses in their signing deal with their first round pick, getting off to a relationship just to a terrible start right off the bat with his agent, with him, with everything. He's holding out, not at OTAs, not at the rookie symposium and everything like that. It's just they truly show how to not run a business, especially when you have an elite quarterback around. Joe Burrow's already voicing annoyance about the salary cap. I think Joe Burrow basically forced them to keep Jamar and T. Higgins around and to pay them. And by the way, they weren't able to field an offensive line and a defense while those guys were making normal salaries. Now you have two receivers making top 10 money among receivers, and you still don't have a defense. You still don't have a great offensive line, and you still don't have much besides Joe Burrow, Chase Brown, and those two guys. So Cincinnati's a team. I think everybody just expects them, they'll bounce right back and they'll be right there as a contender with Buffalo and Baltimore and Kansas City. The defense is still terrible. They have all the same problems that they had last year, which is why they went, what did they go, 8-9 last year?
Let me just push back on that. And you're right. If you're a betting man, I look at 9.5 as their number right now. I'm sure as hell not saying take the over at that price. But let me just push back and say, didn't they deal with the same type of issues? They had a terrible defense. And terrible might be a little strong, but it wasn't a good defense. Terrible offensive line, and they went to the Super Bowl.
No, they had a good defense then. They had a top 10 defense the year they went to the Super Bowl. 10? And if you look at the playoff numbers of that run, Burrow never scored 30 points in a playoff game in that run. Their defense did a great job getting Cincy. Even the next year, I think did the Bengals beat the Bills like 20-7 or 27-7 the next year
in Buffalo.
Yeah, the next year.
Okay.
No, I know, but I'm making a point to you look at how, especially I don't know how the Bengals offensive numbers year by year or defensive numbers year by year in the regular season stacked up. But when it got to the crunch time, that defense stepped up. And that was why Lou Anarumo, people looked at him as a head coaching candidate. Then last year happens. He hits the bricks. And I forget where he went. I think he got hired somewhere as a coordinator. But then the Bengals went out and poached my guy, Notre Dame's defensive coordinator, Al Golden. And I think that guy's a genius. I think he's a really, really smart defensive coordinator. He's a gambling man. He'll blitz and he'll be aggressive, but is he going to be able to fix just a lack of talent among the personnel? For instance, like 2 years ago, they drafted a guy named Jordan Battle, safety from Alabama, a guy I really liked. They got him in like the 3rd round, and he was a top 10 safety his first year as a rookie. Last year, he was one of the 5 worst safeties in the sport, according to PFF. How do you go from a rookie being a top 10 safety to being one of the worst players in the sport overall?
Go play for the Bengals.
He was on the Bengals in the first year too, but to show that they're not developing players. If a guy goes from that in his first year and completely falls backwards, I think it shows a lot about that defense.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it stayed in the family, but I remember back in 9-10-ish, what was his name? Andre Smith, offensive lineman for Bama. It was Hard Knocks. And that was like my first introduction to how bad the front office handles things at Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And it's clearly just been the same. And I know that probably some people have passed on and whatever changes have been made, but it stayed inside that family. And then now you have what took place with Hendrickson. We was talking about how some of the things that came out of his mouth, he was like, man, like I'm giving it my all here.
There's provoked shark attacks and unprovoked shark attacks, he said.
That's what he said. I'm a Florida boy. Yes. Dude, I was like, what is going on with that organization? And you have to feel for Burrow. Like I do. Burrow seems like a good dude. He's a hell of a talent. And if there's a team out there, like, again, we always come back to anybody but Kansas City. Yeah, Cincinnati is clearly one of those teams that could potentially give Kansas City a run for their money if they get everything going in the right direction, and that's not happening right now. But offensively, they do have some weapons. We'll see what happens. 9.5 is the Cincinnati number on that one. Any other teams you want to hit before you get out?
Indy, I just feel bad for Shane Steichen. The iceberg is the quarterback position. They have an iceberg, and its name is Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson. There's 2 of them right in front of their ship, and
what about your
roster?
Didn't they draft who'd they draft from
Riley Leonard? Yeah,
Riley Leonard.
Indiana boys.
Plays?
But no, he's not an NFL player in my opinion.
No.
But I
Daniel Jones is on a team. You never know though.
And I think he's making pretty good money, Daniel Jones, to be on the Colts this year. So
that agent's amazing at what he does.
Yeah, I think they're going to probably start with Richardson, and Jones will come in once Richardson gets tired and loses the locker room again. But that quarterback situation is a disaster, and Shane Steichen, I think, has done wonders to even get them to be competitive around 500 the last 2 years. And they're going to go 7-10, 8-9 again this year, and he's going to get fired without ever having coached a head coach or coached a legitimate NFL quarterback, in my opinion. But that's kind of an obvious one. Miami, they have the worst secondary in football, especially if they trade Jalen Ramsey. They did nothing to address it in the draft. Their O-line is a catastrophe now that Teron Armstead retired as well. They have problems all over the field. I hated their draft. They went out and drafted a defensive tackle, 12th overall, who isn't going to be a pass rusher when they were actually pretty good about stuffing the run. That was like the only thing they were good at on defense. So I really just didn't understand Miami's offseason, and not to mention, Tua is always, living on the edge in terms of what's going to happen with him. Dallas, I mentioned them. You fired your coach. If Dak stays healthy and you win 6 or 7 games now, are you just running it back again? Like Brian Schottenheimer and Dak, and what's going to change? Because it doesn't seem like Jerry's willing to dip into his pockets and spend any more than, the salary cap at this point. And then the last one I'll say, this is a little bit of a different one. This iceberg is probably farther away than these other icebergs, and maybe they have a way to avoid it, I think. But Washington, you had this magical 12-win year. This rookie quarterback where you got to the NFC title game. As I would say, at West Wing, I'm a West Wing fan. As President Jeb Bartlett would say, what's next? What's next for Washington? How do they? How I have a feeling it's going to be pretty hard to top what they did last year going forward and ever get past that point and get to a Super Bowl for a while. You have insane historic production from not only a rookie in Jaden Daniels. That's probably repeatable. I think that guy's a stud. I think he's going to be here for a long time.
Agreed.
But you had a lot of one-year veterans come in and really fill roles. Bobby Wagner was one of the best linebackers in the sport. He's 35 years old. You had multiple guys on the defense like that, especially in the secondary. Austin Eckler came in and was really, really productive in certain moments. Zach Ertz had like 60 catches the last 10 weeks or 8 weeks or whatever it was down the stretch. He was incredibly productive. A lot of those guys, they paid more to stay around as vets. I don't know if it's smart to double down on a bunch of vets who produced in their mid-30s to keep them around and to keep them up at the top. I think they are so similar to the 2024 Houston Texans. We were all projecting after CJ Stroud's rookie year and after the Texans won that playoff game, they could level up and be with Baltimore and Buffalo and Kansas City. And they were a sleeper Super Bowl pick last year. And were the Texans bad? No. The Texans weren't bad. They came out and what did they win? 11 games, 10 games this year. They won their division going away. Mm-hmm. We all kind of felt a little empty about it though, right? We all were like, this is not that good of a team. They feel disappointing, even though they were winning their division, even though they're winning double-digit games. CJ Stroud took a big step back. Even they won a playoff game. And we still look at that season being like, they really never leveled up and maybe they can get there this year. And there were consequences to that season for Houston. They fired their offensive coordinator. They have a new play caller. They don't have Bobby Slowick in there anymore. Is Cliff Kingsbury going to be the belle of the ball again next year, where like he was this year when he didn't take a head coaching job? And a lot of people love to praise him for that and say, Ben Johnson was picky. We'll see how that works out too. But there's a little bit too much just assuming Washington is just going to be right back where they were.
That's fair. No, that's fair. DraftKings right now with their number is a 9.5 minus 125 over under. Again,
that's fair. That's a really fair number, actually.
I agree with that. And what I would say is, from Houston's perspective, you look at that division as just a wash. Like, not saying that about the NFC East. That's for damn sure. Yeah,
that is the big difference for.
Exactly. Oh, you muted your mic there on me.
That was the big difference right there. That Houston had the net of Jacksonville, Indy, and Tennessee, whereas the Washington has to deal with us. And if the Cowboys are better than I think, or if the Giants are better than I think.
All right, quick one on this one. I appreciate you hanging out extended period here, but and tell Becky to relax. But please,
I know.
I want to know this. Isn't it? It's funny how these things work out, and maybe I'm a little ahead here. And I shouldn't be buying anything that's coming out of OTAs. I'm not Elliott Shore Parks, all right? But Shedeur Sanders. And we know that he should have been drafted higher than what he was. But isn't it funny how things work out? Because now it's like, okay, if this dude goes out there and performs, say he even lands the starting gig from week 1, which I don't think he will. I think he will start this year, though, right?
Probably.
Right? So that's where I'm at as well. Kenny Pickett is on that roster. I don't know what he's doing. Maybe he can spiel what he played with the Eagles parlay that into a start. They got Flacco there. They got quarterbacks coming out the wazoo. But isn't it funny how it works out where everybody was all anti-Shedeur, whatever reason it is. And then now all of a sudden it's like, okay, now we could pull for this guy. He's the underdog. And here he is going to start for Cleveland Browns. It's funny how it works out. I would like to see Shedeur get a fair shot. I don't know how it's going to play out, but they can't keep all 6 quarterbacks that are currently under contract at this point in time. But Shedeur, you do think he will be the one guy that stays, or is Gabriel going to be the guy that stays? Flacco gone? How do you think that's going to shake out after it's all said and done come September?
It's got to be Pickett or Flacco. I don't think that they can cut Gabriel. He was a 3rd-round pick. They took him over Shedeur. I don't think they can cut him. I think the message it sends would be pretty bad. So I think it's got to be Flacco or Pickett. And it's probably
could they trade Dillon Gabriel though? Could they trade him?
I don't think there's going to be interest in Dillon Gabriel because they took him so much higher than anybody expected him to go. He was supposed to be a day 3 guy, and then they took him in the 3rd round. People couldn't believe it. It's funny. I actually kind of felt bad for Dillon Gabriel because when Shedeur, that was the moment where when Shedeur got passed on and they took Gabriel, everybody's like, well, no. Now this is ridiculous. This went too far. And it's like, I feel bad that that's kind of like the narrative behind his draft moment, but that is how it kind of went. And the Gabriel thing is crazy. He's a screen merchant, short guy, not a great athlete. I wouldn't have thought, I look at him the same way I look at Riley Leonard, like probably not an NFL player. And he went in the third round. But I don't think they can cut him. They have to find a way to trade Pickett or Flacco. And because it's bad. They've put themselves in a bad situation where whoever they cut, it's a bad message that it sends because you traded an asset for Pickett. Flacco is this like veteran who helped you out a couple years ago make the playoffs. Like cutting him almost feels disrespectful to a certain degree. Like they've put themselves in a weird situation.
Yeah, and
they're gonna be terrible though.
Their win total is low, 6.5.
Oh, they're not winning 3 games.
Not winning 3 games?
I think this is like a 2-15 tank for the number 1 pick situation. I think there's a 2-team race between Cleveland and New Orleans.
That's crazy. Wow. All right. Well, again, football season 97 days away from not that anybody's counting until we kick it off against the Cowboys. And, of course, 100 days. Scott Hansen back on our screens with the Red Zone. Mark Henry Jr., fantastic job. Next week, we'll talk some college football. I got to get your thoughts on everything that's going on as far as adding teams now to 16, and who knows where we're going to stop. Of course, college hoops, they're talking about adding some teams as well to March Madness, going to 76. Everybody's just getting that money. It's the world we live in. But Mark is a mandatory follow if you don't already. Mark Henry Jr. NFL. Mark Henry Jr. NFL. Hear him every Saturday, except for tomorrow. He's doing me a solid. I got to coach some quick ball for my daughter, getting out of here after the Park show with Dick Girardi and Mike Curran. But every Saturday, you can hear Mark Henry Jr. 11-1 right here on The Gambler. Great stuff, Mark. Always a pleasure. Take us out.
Tough Cover Country. Let's ride.
I got my gambling shades. You ready for these?
Oh, your money and you don't even know it.
Oh, I'll see you later. There he is, the great Mark Henry Jr. Hey, Gambler Country. Let's ride. All right. Late for a break. Lot to get to. Coming up. Oh, over to the NBA. Back over to the NBA because we jabbed at it to start. The Knicks, nice win last night. Deserve a lot of credit. I might have missed the mark because that was an easy one. And Sam Oster was with me. That was his number 1 play. I didn't have a play in the game because I just wasn't buying that the Pacers were going to lay down, but that was clear. I mean, Tyrese Halliburton, what did he finish with? 8. That was a dud. And some people are saying, well, you got to be consistent because what if Brunson went out there and scored 8 points? People would be killing him. That is true. But when you're up 3-2, those are the things you get a little leadway, a little bit more leadway in your favor. Anyways, we do have the numbers. Game's going down tomorrow back in Indy, and I think it's going to be ugly for one team. I'll give you my play in Game 6 between the Pacers and the Knicks on the other side, plus the breakdown. Got some good things to back it up, especially some historical numbers as well. A lot to get to. Major League Baseball, Phillies back in action. We had Luke Arcaini live from Citizens Bank Park. No Bryce Harper in the lineup. And, man, he said something else about Bryce Harper that got my attention. I'll tell you exactly what came out of Luke Arcaini's mouth that made my eye pop open, the one eye. Well, like a pirate. On the other side, it's the Daily Ticket. Don't touch that dial. More after this.
Attention. If you owe money to the IRS, this is an urgent message. The IRS is cracking down by sending out collection letters, garnishing paychecks, seizing bank accounts, and putting liens on homes and businesses. They call it enforced compliance. And you better watch out because penalties and interest on unpaid taxes compound daily, making it even harder to get out of debt. Don't let tax debt destroy your life. You need to call Optima Tax Relief, America's #1 tax resolution firm. They're experts in taxpayer assistance programs that can save you thousands if you qualify. A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, Optima's resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for their clients. Let them fight on your behalf, helping to put your tax problems to rest. Call the tax professionals at Optima now for a free consultation.
Call 800-354-2840. 800-354-2840. 800-354-2840.
Optima Tax Relief. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
CEOs you should know, brought to you by Comcast Business. Jennifer Lawson, President and CEO of Keep America Beautiful.
We believe that everyone deserves to live in a clean, healthy, and beautiful community. And for us, that means engaging people in opportunities to help clean up their community, to make decisions about how and where work needs to be done in their community, to improve recycling rates, to improve education around the importance of not littering. And then the whole green side of the equation, which for us is about tree planting and flowers and the power of beauty to improve health, drive action, and really help people get inspired and to love where they live.
And how do you do that?
Through a network of 750 affiliates across the country, we help communities manage litter in their towns. We organize volunteers for litter cleanups. We host recycling events. We provide recycling education, litter education, and then we help plant trees and flowers in parks and oftentimes in private streets and areas responding to disasters. You can learn more about Keep America Beautiful at www.kab.org, and you can find all our social channels there. We're across all the normal platforms, and we welcome your engagement.
Comcast Business, powering possibilities.
On WhatsApp, your personal messages stay private. So things like those selfies from last weekend's party stay between you and your bestie. Because on WhatsApp, your personal messages are yours. No one else can see or hear them, not even us. WhatsApp, message privately with everyone.
Hey, this is Lincoln Kennedy. Here's what's trending on the iHeart Sports Network.
Presented by Mercedes-Benz.
Football news, the Eagles are reportedly finalizing a trade that would send edge rusher Bryce Huff to the 49ers. Philly would get a mid-round draft pick in return. After grabbing a split of their doubleheader with Atlanta, the Phillies continue their homestand tonight. They take on Milwaukee. Taiwan Walker takes the ball for Philadelphia. And there's a push for autonomy within the NCAA, giving the Power Four conferences more of a say on national standards. I'm Scott Davidson.
The Mercedes-Benz Dream Days are back with offers on vehicles like the 2025 E-Class, CLE Coupe, C-Class, and EQE Sedan. Hurry in now through July 31st. Visit your local authorized dealer or learn more at mbusa.com/dream.
Fox Sports Radio, The Gambler. Now, total traffic for Philadelphia.
Good afternoon. Friday drive home. We're Jan of the Walt Whitman into New Jersey down to 42 south at Lower Landing Road. The Vine Expressway tied up both ways. Schuylkill 95 northbound jam barge from the Broad Street and Girard up the bridge. Southbound heavy Copman Bridge. A jam Walt Whitman to the upside of the Girard Point Bridge and heavy 420 to 320. Blue Route northbound slow 95 to Route 1 and southbound St. David's immediate Swarthmore. Eastbound Schuylkill stopping at Blue Route to Belmont and Boulevard to south. Westbound Jan University to Girard. Large to tell a total traffic.
This report is sponsored by Rapid Radios.
Rapid Radios are instant push-to-talk walkie-talkies offering national LTE coverage and no subscription ever. A great alternative to a mobile phone for your kids. For a limited time, go to rapidradios.com and you'll get 60% off. Free UPS shipping. Add code radio and get an extra 5% off.
The last thing anyone wants is to leave behind confusion, stress, or worse, family conflict. That's why estate planning isn't just for the wealthy. It's for families like mine, and probably like yours. With Trust and Will, I created my estate plan in minutes, from naming guardians for my kids to putting our house in a trust to avoid probate. Fast, affordable, and way easier than I thought. Every plan is designed by estate planning attorneys and customized for your state. Plans start at just $199 and include essentials like healthcare directives and power of attorney. With Trust and Will's bank-level security and built-in privacy protections, your personal information and your wishes stay safe. Whether you're newly married, raising kids, caring for aging parents, or just want peace of mind, Trust and Will makes it easy to protect what matters most. Go to trustandwill.com, use code RADIO at checkout, and save 20% on your personalized plan. Because there's no better time to protect the people you love. Trust and Will is an online estate planning service. See website for details.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, let's talk ED because millions of men experience it, but not everyone can access or afford treatments like Viagra. Well, Hims can help. Through Hims.com, you can get a full range of treatment options for ED, including daily or as-needed meds through a 100% online process. It all starts with an online intake form. Get started at hims.com/joy, and from there, a medical provider licensed in your state will determine if ED treatment is right for you. If prescribed, your medication is shipped to you for free. Find the ED treatment that fits your needs with options up to 95% less than the brand names. Millions of men experience ED, but Hims can help. To start your free online visit and save up to 95%, go to hims.com/joy. That's hims.com/joy for your free online visit. HIMS.com/JOY.
Progressive knows when you're in your RV, you're already on vacation. That's when you become Vacation You, who just camped where there's absolutely no shade. Even though regular you burns easily. In fact, Vacation You burns too, but is too stubborn to admit it, which is why regular you gets in trouble at the dermatologist, because Vacation You doesn't do doctors. So bundle your RV with your home or auto policy and earn an automatic discount from Progressive. And spend the savings on the both of you. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers. Not available in all states or situations.
I lived on a commercial salmon fishing boat in Alaska, and I genuinely think that was the first time I've ever felt myself kind of like slipping mentally. I think Alaska does weird things to people.
If you're interested in hearing anonymous callers like this tell stories from their lives, check out my podcast, Therapy Gecko. You can listen to Therapy Gecko on America's #1 podcast network, iHeart. Follow Therapy Gecko and start listening on the free iHeartRadio app today.
#1 on your car radio preset and the new and improved iHeartRadio app. WDAS and WD273D Philadelphia is Fox Sports Radio, The Gambler. You're listening to The Daily Ticket with Sean Briggs. On Fox Sports Radio, The Gambler. The action starts here.
My Lord. It's Friday. How's everybody doing? You got any weekend plans? During commercial break, I like to walk around. You know, it's radio. We always got something going on around here. And over in the promotions department, NJ Transit, the summer edition glasses. Look at these bad boys. Now, I don't take NJ Transit, but I think if you do, you should get a pair of these. These are nice. Are these like I don't know. Yeah, I like these. These are nice little giveaway glasses. Pretty cool. Anyways, nice little reflectors. Never had a pair of those. You see all these young kids. So my daughter, and I know if you have a child that plays any team sports, you know, you've seen these kids too. And it's crazy. As the kids say, the drip these days, some of these glasses these kids are wearing, you know, growing up, I won't lie, I always had drip. I just got chills down my spine saying that. But I rocked Newmans for all my 40-year-olds out there. I rocked some football gloves. I remember my coach was not a fan. He's like, Brace, you wear those gloves, you better not drop a ball. And I wasn't Jerry Rice. Let's just put it that way. But did look good. And especially my senior year, man, we were blue and white. Had the Sharks, I believe, the Nike Sharks that were blue and white. Had the blue Newmans. Oh, man, had the wristbands, the Nike wristbands, the little thin guys around the elbows. Take me back. Had some drip. Anyways, you go to a ball yard near you, and what the kids does, how about this? Like, I got to be ready for this because I just had a baby boy, and in 10 years, who knows what's going to be hot. If I had a kid who told me he needed a sliding mitt to play Little League Baseball or Teener League Baseball or even high school, if you're a coach asking, are you really asking that these kids have sliding gloves, sliding mitts out there, these cooking mitts? No, you don't need that. First of all, you don't slide head first. That's number one. And I know that's hard to do for some people out there. I get it. And then, you know, you keep your hands up. You could carry your batting gloves in your hands. And then when you're running, you keep your hands up. And that puts you, that will hold you from putting your hands down. And that's how you don't hurt your hands. Never hurt my hand playing baseball. Played baseball my whole life. These kids these days are ridiculous. And it's not cheap, too, either, from the parents' perspective. You know how things were pricey back in the day. It's even worse now. But yeah, the drip these kids have, it's pretty funny to see. Whatever makes them happy, whatever puts a smile on their face. I am I am excited. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm not, but I am excited about to go out there and see my kids play team sports. But I'll tell you, man, it's not going to be easy to deal with some of the other stuff that comes with that, and especially when you got people talking about this travel ball stuff. And I hope that goes away soon. I don't think it will, because there's more money than ever in youth sports. But when I grew up, it was Little League a certain time of year, done, on to the next sport, keep it moving. I even played fall ball in baseball. I did play fall ball in baseball, and I enjoyed it. It was good. I think I played fall ball 1 year because I was a little too skinny to play football. So was that my 8th? No, because I played 7th, 8th, and 9th. It might have been my 7th, because I think I skipped 7th grade year and then played 8th and 9th for freshman football. So my 7th grade year, I played fall ball. And even then, that wasn't a big deal. But now this travel stuff, and, you got these tournaments out in Ocean City, Maryland, and all over the globe, and people are, spending all day. It's like, what are we doing here? And then all it comes down to, I would imagine, and I don't have a kid that's playing in these sports, and I'm ranting here, but I would assume that you're in a tough spot as a parent, because if your kid makes the team, which don't they all? But if your kid makes the team and all his other friends are playing, how are you going to be the bad parent that says, no, I'm not going to spend top dollar and we're not going to play for this travel team, XYZ? I would assume that's how it happens. And then you get hooked, hook, line, and sinker. And the next thing you know, you're at a ball yard for a weekend for 48 hours out in some town out in Bumble somewhere in Egypt. Yeah, I almost dropped you. Anyways, it's a Friday. Hello, everybody. Daily Ticket with you here, having some fun. Great stuff early as we reset. Mark Henry Jr. did a fantastic job. We talked some NFL, big storyline from Philadelphia perspective. 2 of them I'll give you. First of all, Bryce Huff, see ya. Heading to San Francisco, not done just yet, but Adam Schefter reported about 2:00 today, breaking news, that Howie Roseman has fleeced essentially the 49ers into, if the details are everything. Nothing is locked just yet, but everything that's being reported, essentially, the Eagles took a little bit of a hit last year for bringing him on and now having him contribute. He had 2.5 sacks, didn't even suit up in the Super Bowl. But after that, it means nothing. See ya. And didn't have to package anything. The 49ers are taking on Bryce Huff and a pretty good chunk of change from the contract, specifically for the reason that Robert Saleh is now the defensive coordinator for the 49ers. And Bryce Huff had his best season in a Jets uniform when Robert Saleh was there with the Jets. So I understand the interest. I don't see it. I think it's a bad move from the 49ers, but these things tend to happen from time to time in the league, right? You get these players to get back with the coach that they had success and they didn't do much in a certain spot. And you give them some new life and a new place. Bryce Huff had nothing to do with playing for Philadelphia in a system, dealing with the fans. I don't think any of that played into his deficiencies last year, right? When it comes down to it, Bryce Huff just was not good enough. He was not good enough to be out there on the field. He got dominated. He was throwing around in his limited opportunities. He couldn't even get into the backfield. So I don't care who the defensive coordinator is. And you want to, I know his strengths. That's fine. But I just don't think he has the goods anymore. And it won't surprise me if that's the case with a guy like Bryce Huff as well. So that's one big piece of news as far as Huff was concerned. Over to the diamond, the other piece of news that to me, for us here in Philadelphia, is really big. And again, nobody's going to go too crazy here, but you expected Bryce Harper to be in a Phillies uniform today. I know I did. Not the case. Luke Arcaini joined us from Citizens Bank Park. Rob Thompson, I believe, spoke to the media, if I'm not mistaken, around 3:00, somewhere right there. Luke said that Bryce will not be in the lineup tonight for the Phillies, taking on the Brew Crew. And I think, if I'm not putting words into Luke's mouth, he said, don't expect to see Harper this weekend. This is a weekend series for fans, and that's the first thing that goes to my mind. Hey, look, you'd like to see Harper out there in a uniform at the home games. And again, no one's saying that Harper's taking time off. That's not what I'm saying. But from the X's and O's standpoint and the winning the game perspective. Now you are changing things around. Bohm will go over to first. Sosa's in the lineup. You're taking that bat with Harper at home. Just was hopeful that we would see Bryce Harper back in a Phillies uniform tonight. Not the case, as they are taking on the Milwaukee Brewers. Once again, DraftKings Sportsbook, we are getting our numbers from this afternoon. Right now, you are looking at Taijuan Walker at -115. Walker's last start was against the Rockies. I think he ended up giving up 3 runs in 5 innings, if I'm not mistaken. They did win that game 9-5. So Walker's pitched well this year. Brewers are 500 ball club. They're rolling out DL Hall, though. This is surprising because I didn't think DL Hall was going to get the start. Now, DL Hall has been in the league this is his 4th season. He pitched for Baltimore for 2 years, 22 and 23, and did not start, basically came in relief there. 2024, he had 7 starts for the Brewers. It was 5.02 ERA. As I said, it's 7 starts, a 1-2 record there. And then for the Milwaukee Brewers this year, just had his first start on, came in relief against the Red Sox back on May the 26th. And they ended up winning that game, but pitched 2 1/3 innings, gave up 2 hits, walked 2, gave up an earned run. And again, just surprised me to see him in there because what I was reading last night, he was not going to get the start. So he's a lefty. One thing I do believe is Kyle Schwarber is a guy you need to look at here from the lefty perspective. He is dialed in. I don't care lefty, righty. It doesn't matter. And of course, yesterday you saw what he did in that game 1.
The right-hander's pitch. Swung on, blasted. Nobody's catching that one. Way gone up into the second deck. Kyle Schwarber gives the Phillies the breathing room.
Of course, Scott Fransky on the call for the Phillies radio network. And again, Brewers and Phillies back at the bank tonight. Rhys Hoskins back at Citizens Bank Park as well. I know he did a podcast a little earlier, made some comments, and it's always good to have Rhys. He was a good guy, and he's been a part of this team, this franchise for a few years, even when they struggled, and of course went on that run as well. And we'll always have that memory when he spiked the bat in the playoffs. So it's good to have Rhys back in the ball yard. Hopefully the Phillies can find a way to win a game and stay hot. And as they just took 2 of 3 against the Atlanta Braves and have just been dominating, hopefully more of that tonight. All right, speaking of tonight, staying in Major League Baseball, we do have a rematch, a World Series rematch between the Yankees and the LA Dodgers. And, of course, the Dodgers defeated the Yankees in 5 games last year in the Fall Classic, their first World Series championship since 1988, back when Kirk Gibson was, running around the base path off of Dennis Eckersley. 1988, last time the Dodgers won the World Series. Now here we are again. They defended their title, the Yankees, who reached the Fall Classic first time in 15 seasons. Bottom line is this. I look at tonight's game. That's not correct. They won the Dodgers. Didn't they win in the bubble? What am I tripping? Yeah, they beat the 2020. What am I saying? I'm a dum-dum. Sorry about that. The Rays have been 2020 in the bubble. And of course, won last year against the Yankees 5 games. However, keeping it moving, it is an interesting game from the standpoint of if you are going to discuss the futures here between these two teams. And we're talking about 2 of the best teams in the game. The Yankees have been dominating the pitching that they have gotten, which is surprising because, you would just think that they would take a step back with some of the things that they were dealing with with their pitching rotation, some injuries and so on and so forth. So here we are now. I thought that the Red Sox were going to be a little bit better this year. Clearly not the case, as they have struggled as of late, 27-31, but the Yankees have been dominating 35-20. It starts and ends with Aaron Judge, who's just been on fire. Take a look at some of his averages and what he's on pace to do. It's just incredible to see. Just hand him the MVP award, and same thing with Shohei Ohtani as well, as both of those guys are front runners right now as we speak. Judge, a little bit stronger of a front runner to win the AL MVP at -6,000 right now at DraftKings Sportsbook. Shohei -225 I still think that both of those guys are slam dunks, especially when Shohei starts to pitch somewhere around the All-Star break. I don't expect him to lose that award. However, injuries do happen. If none of that takes place, both of those guys will be winning the MVP award. I think that's number 4 if he gets another one for Shohei. Wow. Incredible. And also incredible, though, back to that game itself. You got Gonsolin on the mound for the Dodgers and Max Fried getting the start for the Yankees. But it is interesting when you do look at the Dodgers at plus 105. The Dodgers aren't going to be underdogs many times this season. And at home, even more rare. But this is what we're looking at tonight. 10-10 first pitch. Love to say I'll be up watching this one. I'll imagine I'll catch like the first 2 to 3 innings. But after that, be snoozing. Got to get up early tomorrow morning. We do have the Pirates and Padres. Mark Henry Jr. did give that one out earlier today. He likes the Padres in that one. Big time favorites, though, at minus 198. Maybe you want to take a look at the run line at plus 114, minus 1.5, taking on Mitch Keller and the Pittsburgh Pirates. We do have 2 day games going off right now. We got the Reds and the Cubs in the 9th inning. That one's about to come to a close as the Reds are currently up 6-2 in the game. White Sox and Orioles, what a disappointment the Orioles have been. White Sox are a disaster. It is scoreless right now in the first. That one just got started in Baltimore. All right. Take a quick timeout. We'll come right back. We'll talk about the association, the NBA. I'm going to give you my reasons why I think one team will get blown out tomorrow. I'll give you that team and who I think you need to play as far as DraftKings Sportsbook is concerned. We'll go over the numbers, look at some of the props for Game 6 in the Eastern Conference Finals. And is all this for nothing? Should we just give Oklahoma City the Larry O'Brien trophy right now? Well, I'll tell you what. You can sit here and tell me, yes, that's fine, but I'm not going to buy anything along the lines if you're going to tell me that Oklahoma City is going to sweep whoever comes out of this series, and I think it's the Pacers. I'm also not going to buy that it's going to be a blowout in all of these games, as the Game 1 potential spread already listed right now at DraftKings Sportsbook. Granted, they do have the Pacers. I'd be shocked if it's not the Pacers. However, 9-point spread. And I would assume that number is probably going to go one direction. It's not south. I think it's going to head north as Game 1 is next Thursday night, June the 5th, the NBA Finals get started. We'll talk more about the NBA on the other side. 5 o'clock hour, we got Football is King. And 6 o'clock, I believe I'm going to have some Philadelphia Union conversation coming your way as the Union are top dogs in the MLS. Of course, we got a great podcast, X's and the U. Sebastian Letou, Matty G, and Adam Booth steering the ship on that one. They're recording right now as I speak, and I'll have that for you at 6 o'clock. It's The Gambler. Keep it locked right here.
The city.
Las Vegas.
Vegas, make some noise!
The event.
Our legendary iHeartRadio Music Festival.
Presented by Capital One.
Live. Welcome. One stage.
2 nights. The biggest stars in music return this September.
To make history.
The world's biggest artists are taking this stage.
Stream live only on Hulu.
I said, woo!
Listen right here as the star-studded lineup is revealed.
Tuesday morning.
At 8.
Fox Sports Radio, The Gambler. Now, total traffic for Philadelphia.
We've got traffic stop now at the Tacony-Palmyra Bridge. That's for our drawbridge opening. Walt Whitman busy into New Jersey down to 42 south past Lower Landing Road with shore volume. The Vine Expressway busy westbound 95 to the Schuylkill merge, and the westbound Schuylkill stop and go approaching Girard to University and Boulevard to Belmont. Backs up again Gladwood to Conshohocken. Eastbound stop and go Blue Route to Belmont and Boulevard to South. 95 northbound Jeff from the airport to the Walt Whitman. Then Girard up to Bridge. All right, Tortella, total traffic.
This report is sponsored by Rapid Radios.
Rapid Radios are instant push-to-talk walkie-talkies offering national LTE coverage and no subscription ever. A great alternative to a mobile phone for your kids. For a limited time, go to rapidradios.com and you'll get 60% off. Free UPS shipping. Add code radio and get an extra 5% off.
Roots Picnic is back May 31st and June 1st at the Man in Fairmount Park in Philadelphia.
Hold on, wait a minute.
D'Angelo, Lenny Kravitz, Meek Mill, The Roots, Glorilla, Miguel, Thames, Kaytranada, Lotto, Music Soul Child, Jay-Z, 2 Chainz, and many more. For tickets and info, head to rootspicnic.com. Presented in partnership with Live Nation Urban.
Stay tuned to Fox PHL The Gambler for the latest CEOs you should know. We highlight Jennifer Lawson, President and CEO of Keep America Beautiful. Comcast Business, powering possibilities.
Do you own or manage a business here in Philadelphia? Are you unsure where to start when it comes to advertising? Well, here's a surprise. Fox Sports The Gambler, your local iHeart station, is the one place you can get it all. Hey, it's Sean Brace, and we can help with everything from radio and podcast ads to social media and digital. And we can even get local voices like mine spreading the word about your business. So if you're looking for someone to take care of it all, do yourself a favor right now. Call 844-844-iHeart or visit iHeartAdvertising.com today.
The riveting podcast, What Happened to Talina Czar, unravels the chilling mystery surrounding a woman's disappearance during the COVID-19 lockdown, the internet sleuths who wouldn't let it go, and the dark subcultures and betrayals they unearthed.
There were a lot of secrets that were very hard to find.
Listen to What Happened to Talina Czar on America's #1 podcast network, iHeart. Follow What Happened to Talina Czar and start listening on the free iHeartRadio app today.
The last thing anyone wants is to leave behind confusion, stress, or worse, family conflict. That's why estate planning isn't just